Our agenda is pretty simple. We're going to just review some basics of AI. In the health and wellness one I did last week, I covered more of a little bit of a basic understanding of AI and tools. We'll talk about ways AI can help you with being creative and understand working with your hobbies. And then we're going to go through about 20 demonstration prompts that I have prepared. So for retirees, it's really a little bit different. We're not really trying to become more productive, but we're trying to use it as a tool to help us for health, travel, learning, daily life, etc. And so our needs are a little more different than somebody who's in a workplace trying to use it for productivity or other types of tools. And that's one reason why I created this series. So, in basic terms, AI is basically an assistant. If you think of it as a personal assistant that you can ask almost anything of, it's one of the best ways to think of it. There are web access tools that you can get to it through a web browser, or you can download apps for your computer or your smartphone or your tablet and get to your AI tool from an app. You're basically having a simple conversation with it. You're just having a dialogue with it. And it's best, I think, to think of it as asking a person questions as opposed to talking to a computer. It really has a lot of versatility, as you'll see. And you're always in control. If you don't like an answer, you can tell it, you can stop using it, you can change your discussion, you can ask it to give you some different answers in different ways. So again, it's like dealing with a human being almost as opposed to dealing with a computer program where you've got to be very specific in what you want it to do. You can really ask it very open-ended questions, but the more you can give it a little guidance, the better off you will be in getting better answers. Now, the analogy that I've used to talk about AI is an engine versus a car. The AI model, the actual cloud computing model that we hear about with all these data centers, it's an engine that's powering everything and it's working behind the scenes for us. The application that we're going to be using, that's what we drive. We see ChatGPT, we see Claude, we see Gemini, we see Copilot as either a website that we use or as an app that you can download to your computer or to your smartphone. And that's how we get to this. But we're just really talking to a very simple web-based or application. And you don't need to understand how an engine works to enjoy the ride. You can just ask questions like you push on the gas pedal or you push on the brake pedal. That starts and stops. Obviously, the more sophisticated a driver you become, the better you are at handling a car and handling different cars. But you can basically just ask questions in plain English and get answers for AI. And oftentimes AI is called an answer engine as opposed to a search engine because it provides you with answers. So for retirees, what AI can do really well for us is simplify things. It can really break things down and make them understandable because we run across so many complicated things. Of course, I focus on explaining technology, but there's other things like contracts and car leases and bills and medical information. It's really good at that. It helps with planning. If you're thinking of a vacation or an idea or something you want to learn or anything, it can help you plan things out and create a schedule for you and do some things very creatively as well. It encourages creativity. It can stimulate ideas if you have an interest and you want to explore that interest. It gives you a way to really have a dialogue with an expert that can help guide you and give you encouragement and give you suggestions on what you might want to follow up with. And it can provide reminders for you. It can set up a schedule and help create reminders to help you out. And it does save time. It can make things a lot faster. So if you're saying, gee, where do I find an answer for something? AI can help you with saving time or doing things or checking flights or wondering where do I find a course on some activity. it really does help do those things really, really well. So it's a resource for you. It's like having a library and an expert all bundled into one. We used to have to go to separate places for these things, and now AI has so much information that it's really be able to help us save time so we can get on with the activity that we really want to do. Plus, it can be entertaining in its own way as well, because you're having a discussion with something that really has a lot of information about whatever you want to have a discussion with it about, and it can help you explore areas that you might not have explored before. There really is no right AI tool to look at other than what I consider the big four right now, and possibly the big three. If you think of Google, Microsoft, and Apple as big technology companies, they all have huge investments in AI, but there's a couple of others out there as well. ChatGPT was one of the early ones out there, and Microsoft has a big investment in them. But Microsoft tools use ChatGPT a lot. They've customized it for their own use. They have a website, they have an app, and they're really very widely used by a lot of people. About latest figures, about 50% of people using AI are using ChatGPT. So being popular makes it easy to find resources that might help you out. Claude is one you may or may not heard of. Claude is becoming very popular with a lot of people. They're used by a lot of companies that connect to an AI. A lot of AI takes a huge investment. And so somebody that makes a software product may not develop their own AI. They may purchase AI from ChatGPT or Claude or somebody else. But Claude's becoming very well known among a lot of people for doing a lot of things. It's very versatile and has a lot of resources, but you may not have heard of it. Amazon has a big investment in Claude, but other companies do as well. Gemini is Google's AI tool, and they've integrated into a lot of their applications and functions, but you can go directly to a gemini.google.com website. They have a Gemini app for both Apple and Android devices, so you can get to it that way. And then there's Copilot, which is Microsoft's tool that's available. Now, all of these have websites, and I'll show you with a couple of the prompts what kind of responses we get from each one so that you can see that we're going to get pretty similar results. It's only if you get much more sophisticated that you might find one better than other. I prefer using one consistently because it just remembers things I do and can help me, can help keep track of other things that I'm doing with it. But it doesn't matter which one you use. You can use any of them as a website. You can use any of them as an app, and they're all really good. So they all have free versions, and I don't recommend you decide to make a purchase. The purchases are all, oddly enough, about $20 a month. And so you can purchase the AI tool for $20 a month. And what you'll find is you get a certain amount of capability for free, and that may be more than adequate for what you want to do. You don't have to set up an account with them, but if you do, it will give you the ability to keep track of things and go back and see your history of what are called chats, which are the way you interact and ask questions and have a dialogue with the AI. And so a free account is worthwhile, in my opinion. A paid account, only if you start to see that you're running out of resources, or it tells you, well, you've used up your allocation for the day or something like that. Then you're becoming a more frequent AI user. So where does AI help out with creativity and hobbies? Well, with creativity and hobbies, there's things like writing and creating stories. Some people like photography. Some people like art. Some people are looking at exploring music, or they're looking at gardening, or they're looking at cooking. These are just some pretty common hobbies, but there are lots and lots of hobbies that you can explore and just substitute music for something else, or gardening for something else, with the same kinds of prompts that you might be interested in learning about. We'll take a look at these. So writing and stories, we don't often think about writing and stories, but you can explore journaling, doing some archiving, maybe writing poetry or memoir writing. It can help you with prompts and guidance along the way. So if you're not sure how to get started, you can use AI to help be a writing coach for you or to help put together a lot of disparate thoughts and say, hey, can you organize this for me into a way that makes sense for me? Photography, you can learn how to take better photos. There's tips you can get. There's advice. If you're saying, gee, why do my photos turn out dark? Why do they do this? Why do they do that? And you can actually even drag a photo into an AI and say, hey, can you tell me about this photo and suggest ways I can improve it? We'll try doing that a little bit today, maybe if we get a chance. You can get art lessons. You can learn color theory. You can get project ideas. You can find courses that are online or maybe in your own neighborhood. So it's a great way for these resources. If you have a taste in music, one of the things that we don't often realize is that if you're subscribing to a service like Spotify or another tool, you may find that you're getting suggestions for songs. If you have a list of songs that you like or a type of music you like, you can give that to AI and say, hey, based on the fact that I kind of like, theme music, movie themes by Hans Zimmer, for example, what other types of music would you suggest? Or you could learn how to play an instrument or get information on songs. Or if you're thinking about picking up an instrument, what would be a good one to learn how to pick up? And then you can also look at gardening care, get plant guides, get seasonal gardening tips, other ideas for troubleshooting your garden, what problems with plants. I've asked AI to help me figure out why one of my plants doesn't do so well. And it's given me some suggestions and tips and seems to be helping there along the way. And then cooking ideas, you can ask it for recipes, you can ask it for particular flavors, you can ask it to give you variations and types of things that you might not have tried before with cooking ideas as well. So we're going to go into some sample prompts now. What I'm sharing is I'm sharing a web browser. It happens to be Chrome. It doesn't matter whether it's Chrome or Edge or others. They all work very effectively. And what I've got is a tab set up for Google Gemini, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and Claude. And one of the things I want to point out is that they all tend to look very, very similar to each other. Let's take a look at Claude first. There's a prompt box with a flashing cursor. How can I help you today? And I've gone to Claude.ai and I've logged in with my own account, which I use it, and it keeps track of recent prompts that I've put in here. But on the left-hand side, I've got some navigation here. I can close this sidebar. This is called a sidebar, this section right here on the left. If I want to have it, I don't have to have it. If I normally, it will show up and here. And if we look at Copilot, there's a message Copilot. Bob, what should we dive into? It has some suggestions here. And I can open up the sidebar here and you'll see it has a similar sidebar with a history of my conversations. ChatGPT, here's a plus and a cursor I can put in here and ask anything. And here's again a sidebar as well. And Google Gemini, I can expand this menu here. And here's the sidebar that I have. So I can see a history. And some of them will give you little suggestions here at the bottom. Others will just ask you to put in a prompt to start. You may see an upgrade button, and that's where you can upgrade if you want to go beyond the free account and purchase an account for $20 a month. So that's a little orientation of the AI tools. They all work very similarly because they all are starting with a prompt. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to paste a prompt in, and I'm going to show you how the response looks from all four AIs first so that you can get an idea that they're all going to give you a pretty similar result. So I'm going to ask Gemini, give me ideas for a short story about two retirees traveling together. If you like writing, that's not a bad tool. So it's going to give me some ideas for a short story. It's going to give me some ideas. It's not going to write the story for me, but it's going to give me some of the ideas for it. So if I wanted to write something, it'll do it. So here's some short story ideas. Comedy of errors, emotional drama, the proxy list, a thriller, a Cold War on the Lido deck, about Henry and his boisterous, friendly neighbor Jack go on a luxury cruise, Thelma and Louise. So it gave me five ideas and some tips for writing characters. And it asks me a question. Would you like me to generate a first paragraph or an outline for one of these ideas? Now, I didn't ask it for any specific number of ideas. I said, give me ideas. Let's see what happens when I go to ChatGPT. Okay, so I'm going to minimize the sidebar and I'm just going to paste the same prompt in here and we'll see what kind of response we get from ChatGPT. So here's ideas that work well. Wrong train, right town. Two retirees miss their planned train. The promise list, the language of smiles, a photo a day. It's given me about 8 or 9. It looks like probably going to give me 10 ideas, I bet. If you like, I can expand it into a full short story, shape it into a warm, reflective tone, write it as a newsletter, give it a specific travel setting. You'll see some buttons on the bottom typically. If you want to copy and paste what you've had, you can click on copy. Gemini has a similar tool that you can use at the end of its chats that you can copy the response and paste it anywhere. Let's take a look at Copilot. I don't need this sidebar, so I'm just going to paste the same response. And you see they have a little bit different personality, but there's a lot of things that they come up with that are similar in their approach. Suitcase mix-up, lost map, bucket list detour, second honeymoon, magical and whimsical. Would you like me to develop one of these into a full short story? There's our copy message tool right here. Because Copilot is a Word product, if you have a Microsoft 365 account, you can actually launch Word right from here. If with Gemini, you can actually launch your copy into Google tools as well. So let's take Claude. Claude was the one we hadn't looked at, and we're just going to ask it for the same thing. So you can see you're going to get a very similar response. It might not be the specific things you want, but here's interesting, a bucket list, a road trip. These are popular tools, RVs, second chances, train escapes, very common, cruise ships. So it asks you what tone you're looking for, and it gives you ideas. So there are, obviously, they have some sense in their AI about what kinds of story ideas would probably appeal to retirees. Cruises, train, you can see that in Copilot. You can see, meeting again, time travel, suitcase mix up. You can see trips are very common, hotels, seatmates, photos, other things. So you can see a common theme if you start to look at it, but you may not always get the same thing from each AI. So it doesn't, they're all very good answers, I think, and good ideas, and they're all going to give you a good capability. Now, let's take a look at a little more practical one. Let's take a look at a new prompt. If you ever want to start a new chat, you can continue with this dialogue. In any chat you have with any AI, you can ask it a follow-up question. You can say, gee, I'd like few more ideas about character writing, or I'd like a few more ideas about how to create a scene, in a particular location. You can always write follow-up questions, or you can always start a new chat. Now, the old chat didn't go away because I'm logged in with an account, and Gemini I use for free. If I expand the menu, you can see that my chat history is kept here. So I can always go back to it if I want to, or I can always start a new chat. So it'll keep track of your chats for you anytime you need to get back to them. So let's say we're interested in photography. I want to learn how to use my iPhone, and I'd like a little bit of a challenge for the next 30 days. And I'll show you this in a couple of different prompts, and then we'll just kind of focus on between Gemini and ChatGPT because I tend to use those the most. It's thinking. This little spin is thinking. So it's week one, a focus on composition and angles. Um, Challenges for each day, things that you might want to change. They photograph objects, food, desk item, tools from directly above. Okay, so try changing the angle, symmetry, filling the frame, lighting, finding the golden hour, the day hour just after sunrise or before sunset. Look for harsh shadows, okay, silhouettes, a little more technical tools that you can use, trying to tell stories and being a little more creative. So there's 30 days of activities for you to do that you might not have thought about with your iPhone. Let's try ChatGPT and we'll get something similar. It don't be exactly the same, but it'll be typically a project for every 30 days. It's going to focus on something that you might want to do and how you might want to do it. Okay, so these are tools that you can use, try things out, different ways you can work it. And each day, take 5 to 10 photos, pick one favorite, and write a one sentence caption. Okay. A Copilot will start a new chat because I always like to do that with when I'm changing a topic. And we'll try this one. Here's a 30-day photo challenge. Week one, week two, week three, week four, different ideas that it has that is suggesting things whenever possible. And then Claude will go to a new chat here and open up this, and we'll paste it, create a simple iPhone photography challenge for 30 days. And it's going to come up with a similar set of ideas here. Okay, week one, basics, week two, try different things out, week three, week four, etc. So I didn't do much in terms of specifying how I wanted this formatted. I could have said, put it into a list for days 1 through 30 if I wanted to, and that would have made it a little bit clearer. Or I can say, gee, can you create something for my Samsung phone? You can always say whatever you want to do and put these things in there, however you might want to try and do it. So if you can see, the responses are just slightly different, but they're all pretty effective uses. So let's try something else. I'm going to cut down using the different tools. We'll take a look at Gemini and ChatGPT here. So suggest easy watercolor painting ideas for beginners, things you might not have thought to ask about an AI. And you can do these things, get these ideas. It's developing some concepts for you, and it's going to explain different types of approaches to it that you can find. So you can start an entirely new hobby from doing these things. We'll go to ChatGPT and we'll ask ChatGPT to suggest some ideas for watercolor painting for beginners. And these work simply well. And it's given me some interesting references here. Sometimes you'll see a website that'll be referenced that you can click on and it'll take you to the website. Sometimes a website will say it doesn't have permission to access, so it may not be other things you can do, but gives you ideas and approaches that you may want to focus on. So it can create a 30-day challenge or suggest supplies or design a beginner class or handout. Now, because ChatGPT knows me, it knows that I often ask it for things that have to do with creating classes. And that's one of the advantages of a paid account, is that it will help you, give you suggestions and tools that'll give you that capabilities. Let's say, you want to write poetry, or you'd like to impress your friends and you want to write poetry. We'll take a look at Gemini here and we'll say, write a poem. Now, this is what will happen sometimes. You've reached your thinking limit. Responses will use other models, meaning the most advanced model. This is thinking, and there's fast. Thinking is a little more advanced model, meaning it's got a more versatile brain and it's capable of doing more things for you than you might have thought about. So these are things that it gives you the capability to focus on and do more effectively. So let's see where we should start with this. Let's go with the fast model and we'll try that. Oops, let me get my sharing fixed up here. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's going to write a theme for a poem here, a different writing style. If I go with ChatGPT, ChatGPT will give me more results because I have a $20 a month account. And so here's a gentle, reflective poem that you can use as is or adapt for your own voice. So it's an interesting tool. So you can ask it, you can give it feedback, make it shorter, give it a spoken word feel, adapt it for a class, which is what I do, or give me a humorous one if I want to. So some of you I know live in apartments. We'll go to Copilot for this and we'll say, now you'll see this little drop down arrow. This is typically a way you can select a model. Smart basically is going to automatically, most of the AIs will automatically tune into whatever resource they think is the best for answering. But if you just need quick responses, you can get quick responses from it and change it to that. But smart, or they're typically going to automatically try and make sure they use the best resource they have available. They have different brains. It's like different engines in a car. They have different brains that are using to solve problems for you. So you can see why lots of times AI is thought of now more and more as something called an answer engine as opposed to a search engine. Somebody asked me that once recently, is that why am I using a search engine when I'm using AI? No, you're really getting answers. You're using it as an answer engine. Now, you may get references to websites here, like it's giving us references to the Home Depot, the Spruce, other resources that are here that you can go to, but it has more information for you and it has references that it gives you. Would you like a beginner-friendly checklist? You will get in the AI at the end of your dialogue a prompt from the AI, hey, would you like me to do this for you? And you can say no or yes, or I've changed my mind, or I have a real problem with daylight in my apartment, and it'll give you better responses. So those are some tools. Let's try another one here, and we'll go to ChatGPT again. Create a weekly journal prompt list for personal reflection. Some people say, I'd really like to write a journal, but I don't really have something to help kick it off every day. Well, maybe you can use AI to help kick it off for you. Okay, I said weekly journal prompt list. So Monday, what's one thing I want to feel more of this week and what would help create that feeling? That's kind of a trigger, for it's kind of like a muse. You can use AI as a muse to help you out to figure things out. Let's take a look at something where if you wanted to learn how to do more work with your photos, you can do things. Let's say, teach me how to edit photos on my iPhone in simple steps. I didn't say how many simple steps. I just said simple steps. So if you want something basic, if you want to explain simply, you can do these types of things. So increasingly AI will tell you to do things like when you start with auto, you can tap the magic wand. It shows you some screenshots here that might be helpful for you. Sometimes it can't pull the screenshots up from a website where fonts to find references. Other ways you can say, I just like a simple instruction. You can say, give me a simple set of text and step-by-step instructions for each topic, and it'll reformat it for you. So it's not like the answer you get is the only answer you can live with. So here's a set of steps that you can follow step by step to make sure that you do it. So if you tell me which model iPhone you have, I can tailor the wording to match exactly. Now, one of the things that we may not realize, well, different iPhone models have different buttons and different capabilities. So if you wanted it for the latest operating system or your iPhone model, or you can say, how do I tell what my model is? And if you're not sure, like just like you're asking an instructor in class or somebody, this is going to give you the answer about how to find these things out. So it's not just a flat answer. Let's take a look at some people that might be interested in cooking. Let me try Copilot again. And it doesn't know ingredients already I have, but say I have some common, let me change it to common pantry ingredients. And here's some things people might have: garlic or tomatoes or chickpea or rice and bean burrito bowls, lentil soup, things that are common. And so you can find these things out. So if you wanted to give it a list of things you had in your pantry, you could do that. You even could, if you wanted to, take a picture of your pantry. And when you click on this plus button, you could add that image or file. Now, if you're using any AI tool on your smartphone, when you tap the plus button, you'll have the ability to take a picture because your phone has a camera. I'm on a computer, and so I don't have a camera. I have to add an image to it. But you may get other options here that you can view, that you can look at. And you say, well, gee, what's this going to look like if I cook it? You can ask it for a picture of what it might look like when you're done with it. So here's another idea. Maybe some of you thought about opening up a YouTube channel or something and say you have a hobby for my hobby, and let's call it stamp collecting, okay? And we'll see what we get for that. Help me plan a beginner-friendly YouTube channel for my hobby. And so here's some video ideas. Here's how to do a show and tell. And with Google, you'll see some things like export to Sheets because they're integrated with the Gemini tools, lifestyle, basic gear, next steps, how to do it. It'll walk you through. If you've never thought about creating a YouTube channel, it's another way to do it. So I was visiting my granddaughter in Spain, and I had, she was homesick from school one day. So let's say we wanted some ideas for projects, and we had construction paper. So this is why I suggest some easy DIY craft projects I can do with construction paper. And we'll talk it for a 10-year-old, okay? Maybe you're helping out, you're babysitting, you're watching family or something like that. Here's some ideas, okay? Right away, some activities you can do with your, grandchildren or family members or other people, and do different ones. If you say, gee, I'd like to have some step-by-step guides, says scissors and glue are great. Turn craft items into usable items so they feel proud of them. Kind of some psychological tips too. So there's some options there. Let me go into Claude again for a minute here. We'll just take a look at a new prompt, and we'll say, help me turn my life memories into short written stories. Archiving and creating journals is really invaluable. We have a lot of stories that we can share with a lot of people that they might not have thought about and they might not know. So it'll help guide you through this. So think of it as a coach. What kind of memories are you thinking about? What's your vision? Once you share it, how do you want to deal with it? Why don't you tell me about one memory that stands out to you, as much or as little detail? So if you just type in words or phrases or locations, it'll come up with a story for you that'll help you coach it too. So another types of things. So let's take a look at ChatGPT again. We'll go with the new prompt. we'll say, create a weekly creativity challenge I can do in 15 minutes a day. Let's say you get bored after a little while and you just want to kind of get into things slowly. You can say, here's something you can do. Make one small thing. Pick a theme for the week. Day one, collect. Okay, write your theme at the top of a page. List 20 ideas. Day two, remix. Day three, create, different types of things, sketch a doodle. Try using something without the letter E, or use only three shapes in drawing, or add a twist. A different approach to dealing with different types of things. So it tells you what kind of creativity do you want most. We can say, surprise me. I have no idea what it might come up with, but it's going to come up with things that might be, here's a surprise me, the odd pair. Pick two unrelated things and do a quick sketch or a story about things that connect them. A 5-minute walk capture. Take a 5-minute walk and capture three things and write some ideas about it. Explain it like a human and use an analogy, a bad version, before and after, some different things that can kind of suggest things. Now, unfortunately, I have a friend that has some problems with his hand. He has tremors in his hand and he has difficulty holding his hand steadily. But some people have limitations on their hands and joints. So, what are some hobbies that are easy on the hands and joints? Okay. The key is to avoid repetitive strain, heavy gripping, or high impact. So here's some enjoyable hobbies. Relaxing and mindful, gardening, bird watching, meditation, painting with large brushes or sponge, photography, music appreciation, or learning an instrument like a keyboard, because they require less pressure than strings. That's interesting. Intellectual, reading or audiobook clubs, writing, puzzle solving, gentle movement, Tai Chi or chair yoga, tech and entertainment, ergonomic tools that are recommended, and it can tailor. Do you want to tailor for indoor? For those of you in cold weather, it might be useful, or outdoor options as well, or for just small groups or one people. Again, you can have this dialogue going on that you can do. So these are some tools that you can consider. So let me try this one here. Let's see if we can use this in Gemini and let me do some fast results here. Help me write a letter to my future grandchildren. Kind of an interesting concept. Opening, how to start out, state the purpose. What's your life for you like right now, current events, message about it. So it has some thoughts on it. So you can use it now. Would you like me to help you brainstorm some specific memories or pieces of advice you could include? Or would you like to start drafting it yourself using this structure? So you can throw some things out to the AI and it'll come up with suggestions for it. Let's talk about Chicago in the 1960s when I was growing up. Okay. And I have no idea what it's going to come back with. I haven't done this before. So here's some information about Chicago in the 60s. Mayor Daley, the Democratic Convention, Civil Rights Movement, culture, community. And so it's interesting. There's a YouTube video here that they reference. So they come up with information. And this is a way to focus on particular things that might have been, relevant during that period of time. Let's try creating prompts that'll help you with a personal memoir. And again, you can see they're all really good tools for AI. There's not like one is going to be significantly better for things. This is what's your earliest memory, describe the house you grew up in, who is your first best friend, what family traditions, what about a moment when you realized life would never be the same, relationships, identity, growth. So, and here's some tips. Don't worry about writing an order. Pick one prompt and just write for 15 minutes and let the memory unfold. Later, you can weave these fragments into chapters. Now, if you wrote something and you wanted to get AI to kind of clean it up and copy edit it or help rewrite it better, you can copy and paste into this chat box, or you can upload a file, any image or file you want to get, you can do that as well. So let's see about photography projects that you can do close to home. We'll do another prompt here. And we'll see what suggests. I had the S, I typed it, pasted it, and dropped it off. But the great thing about AI is that it helps understand, it understands when you make a mistake like that. So here's ideas that you can focus on: indoors, still lifes, light experiments, food photography, people, native projects, different types of ideas. Maybe you want something, that you can finish faster, and you say, I don't really want to have a project that's going to go on for a month or so. You want something that you can do in a week, and let's say indoors. We'll see what happens. Okay, so what are you drawn to? It asks you some questions. Do you have specific materials? Yarn, books, fabric, software? What's your main goal? And here's some ideas. Okay, create a small detailed diorama. I hadn't thought about a diorama in a really long time. And so writing in digital, writing a micromanagement, creating a custom herb garden planter or spice rack. And it asks you which sounds most interesting. So you can get all of these different ideas that you might not have thought about. So if you want to write, a lot of people like writing to their friends and communicating things about gratitude and reflection. What are some prompts that might help me write something, to friends, or sharing something on social media or something like that? So gratitude prompts: write about a person who changed your life in a small but meaningful way. Some of us remember our grade school teachers. Some of us remember somebody we met, a family member, whatever. Reflection prompts: if you could give advice to yourself from 5 years ago, what would you say? What do you know? These are interesting thoughts that we have, and they're good dialogues. Now, let's say you've just got a lot of ideas here that you're working with, and you want to make sure you organize them. Help me organize my creative ideas so I don't feel overwhelmed. Lots of times our stuff gets thrown into documents and notes and other things like this. So help me organize things. Where can I keep things? So a small notebook or a dedicated app, whenever an idea strikes, write it down to me. I actually use this for my newsletter ideas and for my tech topic ideas. I write down everything just even as soon as I can. I have a post-it note and a pen and paper next to my desk just in case I get an idea. So I'll do these things. Idea bank, just a way go through things. Try and develop a project board or a blackboard or a whiteboard or something you can have, and other ways to do. And then let's talk about, if you want to share your hobbies, what you could do, what would be a good way to share them safely and simply. So say are painters, say you make craft projects, say you do gardening. Share what you do, not who you are. So it start with a hobby. You don't have to be in the photo. You can share stories about it, what you're doing, how you're doing it. If a stranger would need it to enjoy your hobby, don't bother posting it. So if it's something simple, you could use Facebook groups. A lot of us might belong to communities. We're in Facebook groups or Instagram. You don't need to have more than one social media platform or one way to share things. But if lots of times your family wonders, what the heck are you up to? So if it's another way to share something with what you're doing, we forget that a lot of things we do during the day are issues. But if you're concerned about privacy, you can walk you through Facebook or Instagram privacy step by step. Or you can create a persona. You don't even have to use your full name. And it has some suggestions with how to share these if you're interested in doing it. Now, one last prompt that I want to show you, and I haven't done this in a while, but if you want to create an image, if you look at these tools here, there are lots of tools that are available, but you'll see some prompts here where you can get suggestions. But I want to create an image for my granddaughter with a cake and bear wishing her a happy birthday. Just as a photo you might want to send as a happy birthday card or an email message or something like that. Let's see what it'll come up with. Gemini's graphics tool is nanoband, and these graphic tools are integrated into the chat boxes. So you don't have to tell it or specify anything, do a picture. It's going to create a picture in all of them for me. And I want to show you that it's something you can do. So if you want an image or some kind of an idea that you can say, hey, create something for me, they're all going to do it. Okay, so Gemini probably came back here fast. There you go. Now we could change the image of the person, if we wanted to, or we could change the name here. We can ask it for feedback. Here's the image in a little cartoon style. Here's Copilot. It may take a minute or two. And let's see if Claude came up with it. But Claude doesn't create, generate, or produce images. Okay, so something to keep in mind if you're interested in doing graphics or artwork. Copilot's going to take a little bit longer sometimes, but it'll come back and give us some finishing touches. So typically I find personally Gemini and ChatGPT are really fast at doing this. If you want to use other graphic tools, they're out there, but these are built in to your AI tools that you can use them without any questions whatsoever. So I wanted to share 20 prompts. We actually got 21 in today, and I wanted to share them all with you so you had a good understanding of what Gemini, ChatGPT, Copilot, and Claude, which are the popular tools, are to use for AI. And try using these, try taking advantage of them, just try asking questions and seeing what the AI comes up with for prompts and responses, and help learn how to use it more for creativity and inspiration.